Sinful anger. To keep our words from becoming destructive, we must be able to control what we say. Here's Gene.
Earlier, he dealt with the subject of anger, remember? Now he goes down into a much deeper discussion of this. He says, "Not many should become teachers, my brothers, knowing that we will receive a stricter judgment, for we're all stumble in many ways. If anyone does not stumble in what he says, he is a mature man who is also able to control his whole body." He's dealing with the tongue, but he's dealing with the concept of anger. In 6:8, he continues, "The tongue is a fire. The tongue, a world of unrighteousness, is placed among the parts of our bodies. It pollutes the whole body, sets the course of life on fire, is set on fire by hell. For every creature, animal or bird, reptile, fish, is tamed and has been tamed by man, but no man can tame the tongue. It's a restless evil full of deadly poison." Here he's dealing with sinful anger. He had addressed the issue very quickly in chapter 1. Now he develops it. And he gives three incredible illustrations when he talks about like controlling a horse with a small bit. Now, when we put bits in the mouths of horses to make them obey us, we also guide the whole animal. He's illustrating the tongue. He talks about a ship with a little relatively small rudder. And consider ships, though very large and driven by first winds, they're guided by a very small rudder wherever the will of the pilot directs them. Illustrating the tongue, the power of the tongue. Thirdly, igniting a raging forest fire with a little spark. Another graphic illustration. So too, though the tongue is a small part of the body, it boasts great things. Consider how large a forest, a small fire, ignites. And it's fascinating the way he ends the paragraph with three questions. James liked questions. And throughout his letter, he gets them thinking. And so he says, look, does a spring pour out sweet and bitter water from the same opening? The answer's obvious. Can a fig tree produce olives, my brothers, or a grapevine produce figs? Something's wrong here, he's saying. Again, he's questioning, I think, the reality of their salvation, if they are persistent with their anger. He says, neither can a saltwater spring yield fresh water. In other words, he says, take a look at your lives. Take a look at how you're using your tongue. So earlier in chapter 1, dealt with sinful anger. Here he really specifies what's going on in the lives of some of these believers. Question. According to Paul, in what other ways does anger become sinful? See, not all anger is sinful. In fact, in Ephesians 4:26, be angry and do not sin. In other words, when you get angry, and you will get angry, don't sin in the process. Now, he's already explained if it's destructive, then it's sinful. And he certainly spells that out in James, his letter. But here, Paul gives us another kind of anger that's sinful. That's allowing this anger to fester and to turn into bitterness. And then when he says, don't let the sun go down, it's a metaphor of don't let it linger. You know, some people would rationalize and say, well, the sun is down, I'm angry, so I can now be angry for 24 hours and not deal with it. That's not what he's saying. He's saying, don't let it linger and turn into bitterness. There's another kind of sinful anger, and Paul dealt with that, and that's vengeance. Friends, do not avenge yourselves, instead leave room for his wrath, for it is written, vengeance belongs to me, I'll repay, says the Lord. When we take matters into our own hands, when we're vengeful, Paul says that's sinful anger.